All right. One sec. Recording will start soon. Transcription will start soon. Okay. Yes. So, what an exciting moment to share with you. So, as we know, we've talked about this, but let's share with the world what we're doing. So, recently we've known each other for a while and we've shared a journey, and lately it's been kind of brutal, and we decided we want to share our brutal journey with the world. And so in this process we realized there's this giant cosmic joke going on, and so we believe we started to start this podcast called The Cosmic Joke, so we could just share with you how we've learned to ride these waves of reality or non-reality or whatever they are, and how we deal with them in our day-to-day lives, which has learned to be a lot of laughter, because if anything can go wrong, it seems to go wrong lately. And so and we've learned to laugh, and we figured it was important. We wanted to let people, talk about this with the world, because it could kill me or it could make me laugh. So anyway, what do you think, Victoria? What do you got?
What to say? Okay. Okay, wait. Reset the recording.
No, we already are going. Quit stuff. We're letting this thing out. There is no practice. This is organic. Keep going.
We got to reset. Oh, okay.
No, we're not. We're doing
So that's a great way to.
No, we don't want people to think we practice and we got to be comfortable. Fuck that. We just go. This is how we're doing it. This is how the world works.
You know what? That's a good way to start then. So we have to get practice with being imperfect. So yeah. So I'm Victoria.
I'm super imperfect. I don't need to practice.
Yeah, life is absolutely falling apart right now. So I love that we're doing this podcast, and I'm happy to be here. So.
Right. So.
Lead, and then I'm gonna bounce off of what you got for me today.
All right. So, it's one of those funny things, because when I look back on the journey and how we met, right, it was I don't mind being fully transparent in this podcast of life. And so almost 8 years ago I got sober and ended up in a 12-step program, and apparently became self-reflective, or tried to be self-reflective, and apparently start to grow spiritually. And I got sober, and I thought drugs and alcohol were my problem. And 8 years later, come to find out they weren't my problem. I'm my problem, and drugs and alcohol made me feel a lot better. And so in that process during COVID, we had a Zoom meeting that we were participating in. And so Victoria ended up coming into that little meeting, and that's how we met. And I was like, holy shit, this girl's only got a week of sobriety, but her spirit was already, I don't know, man, as deep as, it goes. And for me, I know, like, a lot of people in AA say, oh, you're only a week sober. You just need to shut up and listen. And I'm like, no, this girl needs to talk, because she already spiritually understands reality in a way that a lot of people don't, even in 12-step rooms. And so I resonated with her, because I was like, here's some soul family that understand there's some deeper meaning to reality. So our backstory is we met in a 12-step Zoom meeting during COVID, and ever since then we've always kept in touch, and we seem to share a very the same path, and we've helped each other out along that way. But we've talked about doing a podcast for a while, right? We've talked about this how many times?
Yeah, pretty much like since week one, over the last 4 years. And finally now seems to be the time to do it, because every time we tried doing it before, something would get in the way, or we would try and come up with ideas, and it just never seemed to fit. But recently, pretty much anything that could go wrong in our lives, it got worse than worse. And every time we'd be like, oh yeah, it couldn't get worse. It did. So
yeah.
Time to do it.
I know. So I love talking to you like 4 days ago, and you're like, I can't get any worse. And I'm like, I started laughing. I'm like, yeah, okay. And then so
I woke up this morning, my whole business is shutting down. I have to fire everybody, and in probably the next hour after we're done doing it. So it's just like, I just gotta laugh about it, because it's just horrible. It's a terrible feeling. So
yeah, it's real, and life is real, and these feelings are but are they real? And this is where I teeter on my observation of my reality now, right? It's what is real? I don't even know. I know I create a lot of delusions in my head and illusions in my head that are never real, but they sure feel that way. And even now, like we keep saying, everything's falling apart, and it is falling apart, but I've realized my new life's always costing me my old one. And so this isn't the first time this has happened to us on our life, right? Our journey. My whole life fell apart for me to get sober, and then I had a 7-year stretch of pretty blissful, amazing nirvana, that I was like, wow, I've woke up in the matrix, wow, this is all one big giant house of mirrors, a hologram, like literally Victoria and Randy are literally one thing talking to itself through two different bodies. This is trippy shit, right? Like, what is real? What's not real? Who knows? But the human experience does seem to be pretty real, although it, what's Einstein say? Reality is an illusion, albeit a persistent one. And so, yeah, it's a trip because as your life and my life, they're falling apart. They are actually falling together, but it's sometimes when we're in it, it's really hard, honestly, right? It can be really tough, and it's very humbling to have to surrender, I guess. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think that's an understatement to put it, because I feel like I'm in that weird period right now where it's like that spiritual part of myself wants to sit here and be like, I know things are going to get better, but it's like, really, are they? Because that human part of me wants to sit here and shake a stick at the world, and because it doesn't feel like, it genuinely doesn't feel like it's going to get better. There's no part of me right now that thinks things that are going to get better. It's like every time, like I feel like I'm waiting for a period of comfort to come, and that's going to be my signal that things are just going to like chill out and be calm. But that period of bliss, it just doesn't seem to happen. It just keeps seeming to be like roller coaster after roller coaster after roller coaster. But at the same time, I'm like, is that roller coaster the thing that signals to me that is my peace and calm in my life? I mean, that's the thing I'm familiar with. So it's like, I guess that's where I'm struggling. I'm like, what is my definition of peace and calm in my life? Is it the chaos, or and maybe that's why I keep bringing it up in my awareness, or is it truly this level of peace and calm that that I'm actually desiring? If that makes any sense, like
it makes total sense, and
mm-hmm.
this is why I like chatting with you, because like reality is we know the truth. The truth is the peace and the silence and everything, but perfection's within you, right?
Yeah.
And you know how to find it, and you should be able to find it no matter what's going on. And I know that, but yet we're having this experience that more will be revealed, right? And then deeper layers of ego death or removal, or maybe not even death or removal. I'm starting to actually think, man, maybe that ego is kind of good a little bit. I don't know, but I'll tell you what, I think the art is to stay in the peace and the perfection, no matter what's happening outside of ourselves. And if we're in true surrender and faith, right, we would be able to, but the human dies hard, right? And and it's like, like I liked what you said. It's at this point of our journey, there's two parts of it, right? I feel like in my reality, I have my higher self, my soul, my spirit that knows the truth, that knows it's all perfect, that knows everything's amazing, and it's just unfolding through me. And then there's my Randy, my ego, that's living this story that, has to feel things, to heal things, and has to face things, and step into them to realize that that what my soul tells me, fear is an illusion, nothing, anxiety is an illusion. But then I have this human that Randy gets frozen and lack of maybe non-action because he's scared to take the next step. But then as he takes the next step, he sees how it always works out, and then my higher self's like, see, I told you, right? So there's like these two aspects of self or planes I'm dealing with at the same time. And it's beautiful, but confusing as shit at the same times, right? Because
it's so hard, because it's time. It seems to be time is the only thing that separates us from feeling that comfort and peace.
Yeah, it's something that's my illusion, or my illusion of not allowing everything to be perfect as it is, right? We have a saying in our little core group where we came from, right? Acceptance is the solution to all or acceptance is the answer to all our problems, because there are no problems, right? Only, or to quote who's that guy? Anyway, there is no good or bad, only thinking makes it so. Shakespeare, right? And so our mind literally creates our whole reality. And I know these things, and I know how when I wear the right lens, I see the right things. But like you're talking about your business shutting down, and for me, as which I was in Florida seeing a woman thinking we're gonna move back to California, and then I'm with her for a few months, and I'm like, ooh, there's too many red flags, no hard feelings to her. And I'm sure I have my own role. Don't get me wrong. I'm not I know not to blame everything outside myself, but I will say there are some things that I'm like, yeah, I don't, those are old traits that I've attracted that I no longer want to participate in. So what is it within me? Why am I getting this again? But I knew it wouldn't be fair to move her across the country to step into an environment for the sake of living with her. I just was like, that's probably not a good idea. So I'm going to go back to California, and as I build a new business, I'll stay with my mom. And I got back with my mom, and when I got there, it was a very tough environment that she kind of was hitting her one of her probably lifetime rock bottoms. Her mom passed away a few years ago, and her outer world was total chaos between just a lot of material possessions and dogs. And it's like a series of unfortunate events in my sobriety state. It seems like everything, I really have the best intentions of being a better person, and then taking the next step, but that next step seems to almost always take me into a worse experience, and it's not a worse experience. My ego wants to think it's a worse experience, but it's really, I think I'm going deeper and deeper into the shadows, into the depths of my personal, of the consciousness, and so the outer world's mirroring that back. And it's so humbling, because I know for a fact that we all create our realities 100%, and being humble enough to admit, like, how did I get myself here? But then also seeing the perfection of why I'm there. You know what I mean? And that's the art for me lately, is as my ego or my human Randy wants to be like, how the heck did you end up back at your mom's? But then my soul's like, no, you're doing internal house cleaning, going deeper than ever. And you ended up in the material world at your mom's, where you're getting to do the same thing. And it's all the same thing simultaneously, but staying in that state of mind, or wearing that lens to see the perfection of really, there is no inner outer worlds, truthfully. It's just one big hologram, right? And recognizing that I'm always right where I'm supposed to be, and trust the process, and really letting my experience unfold through me, and learning to laugh, and I think that's why it's a cosmic joke, because it's like the worst things that ever happened to me were the best things that ever happened to me.
Mhm. So then I feel like learning to laugh about all the misfortune stuff makes it feel better. Do you think that that's a form of spiritual bypassing?
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
Okay, do you feel like, learning to laugh about things? Because, like, I feel like, and I guess to fill anyone in, just like the chaos that's been going on in my life right now. So, like, the business is falling apart, running out of money, been applying for like 2,000 jobs, haven't been able to find anything. Transmission on the vehicle just broke. There's no public transit near my house. I bought a used transmission. That transmission broke. Like, it's just been so bad that, like, it's like you could tell it's the universe completely falling apart, and things are going to come back together. It's just, I got to laugh about it at this point. So that's just to fill you in on how awful it is, right? So, like, I find myself having to be able to laugh about this stuff, because there's nothing else you can do besides be in a state of surrender, waiting for something different to come apart, to happen, right?
Yeah.
So, like,
this too shall pass, right?
Yeah, this too shall pass. Exactly, right? And so finding myself in this period of just, like, having to laugh about it, because it's like, if you don't, what else do? You just end up crying about it, being, oh, poor me, like, in the self-pity, like, it's useless.
Yeah.
It's not going to get anyone anywhere,
Yeah.
right? Do you find that being in a state of just laughing about it, do you find that to be a state of, like, just spiritual bypassing? Or do you feel like that's genuinely something where it's okay to just do, because it's acceptance, because there's nothing else you can do about it?
Yeah, well,
What's
I
your
love
opinion?
the question on that. And to me, I feel like the first many years of my sobriety, I did do a lot of spiritual bypassing. I'm like, oh, it's all perfect. It's all amazingly perfect. But I was ignoring my feelings, and I kept getting a repeat, and it kept happening. And I'm like, oh, it's so perfect. It's so amazing. And eventually I started to suffer again. I'm like, well, if it's so perfect and amazing, why does it keep happening? You know what I mean? And my personal, intuition within me, my all-knowing source that tells me everything when I'm ready to hear it and I'm ready to ask, which usually takes me getting to a really bad spot where I finally ask. I don't know why I wait that long. But it's like, well, you need to feel it to heal it, and I'm like, oh, so I got disassociated for a while, and I believe that was spiritual bypassing. And I feel that eventually, I started to feel the things and I started to admit it. And I think that's my personal reason why, when we talk about this, why I started this podcast was to you share all this thing, and the cosmic joke is no, we do need to feel them. I believe we have to absolutely feel it all. We have to go, man, this fucking sucks. Everything's falling apart. This is brutal. I don't like this. Like, why did I ever get sober? Because this shit sucks. Like, this is like, ever since I got sober, like, nothing's went my way. Like, nothing, but it's went the perfect way, and sometimes I see it in little glimpses of day to day, right? Where the day starts out wrong. But then everything that went wrong in the morning, by the afternoon, you see this magic that shows up that never would have got there if that day didn't appear to go wrong, because it was taking me where it wanted me, and I didn't like how it was taking me, because I wanted to be in control, right? And now I'm seeing at year 8 of sobriety that there's these bigger unfoldments as well. So there's the little day-to-day ones and there's the larger ones. But so in that process, I have to feel all of it. I do have to feel it. But what I have learned is and trust me that we started this, right? Because over the last few weeks, man, I've cried a few times. I've been over the planet. I'm like, I'm done with this spiritual crap. I'm done with this self-reflection. I'm done with growth. I can't do this shit anymore. This is brutal. I'm tired. I'm done. I'm physically exhausted. My head is blowing up with more Kundalini energy or whatever. And I was done. I was frazzled. And really, it was another full surrender, right? But I have to feel it. You know what I mean? So I think feeling it is the part that we feel, but I think the laughter is the medicine. I think for me in my journey, the laughter is what allows the cosmic joke to be the cosmic joke. You know what I mean? Like, laughter is the healing, because if I'm gonna, we chat, and me, I always swear this is predetermined. It's already written, and if I'm in a full surrender and let go, I see how everything just comes in and attracts. Like, people talk about manifest, I'm going to manifest this and that. It's like, there might be a plane of consciousness where you can control it, but I can't control mine. I don't need to try. When I try to control it, it doesn't work. When I just be, it reflects back. You know what I mean? And so, but the act of trying actually keeps it away. So like, when I'm just be and I just watch and I see what's showing me in my outer world, that, it tells me what's going on within me. And sometimes it's brutal to go, wow, I created this. This is embarrassing. This is so humbling. But then, but the embarrassing comes from my old programming of being guilt and shame, just a human programming. Now I have to look and go, no, you shouldn't be embarrassed. You should be proud that you're facing your demons, and you're courageous enough to walk this path, because honestly, this thing's brutal. When I got here, I thought it was going to be all rainbows and unicorns.
Nope.
No.
No.
Right. And so
opposite, actually.
that's the long story of spiritual bypassing. I've definitely done it. Is laughter spiritual bypassing? I think laughter is the answer. I think laughter to the whole planet is the answer. We could take it serious, or we could just learn to laugh, because inertly it's an inside job, right? And laughter sure makes me feel better. And even that, I can tell you this, my only job that I'm really given is to make my experience. And I do think fighting it sometimes is necessary, because that's what lets me feel like shit. Lets me feel like I'm in control. And then when I surrender and let go, it removes another layer of my ego or human trying to control a situation. And then I have to look back and laugh, because like I said, which plane am I looking at my reality from? My soul plane, the higher self, or the ego? And like I said, we've talked about the worst things that ever happened to me, my human, were the best things that ever happened to my higher, myself, to get me aligned with my divine truth, and whoever created this system, it is a cosmic. It's actually sad. I mean, I got to be honest. Knowing who I was before we did all these things, and who I am today, is like, wow, like I was this in a cage of my mind, and I probably still am, and I don't realize it. Like, what the heck like it's just such a conundrum. Like it's an oxymoron. Like reality is a total oxymoron. It's a total conundrum, which is why I'm sitting here at the beach in the ocean with a beanie on to kind of prove my point today, but you know what I mean? Like we live it. It's all a paradox. Like it's like you let go to you surrender to win. When you let go of control, you gain all control. It's like all these things that are so opposite of what our original operating system thought we needed to do, and to live in that new operating system. It takes a lot of time to adjust. I'm noticing, and practice, and a lot of laughter, because the more I laugh, the better it gets for me. So, that's just what I've experienced.
It feels nicer too, I prefer it.
Yeah. Well, my old version of me, right? It didn't even really know laughter at the end of my addiction and alcoholism, right? You know what I'm saying? And I'm sure you can relate, but now, and literally, right, my guilt and shame on myself, and my hate of myself, because how I talk to myself internally, and I couldn't laugh at myself. And now I literally watch Randy do things sometimes, and I crack up. I'm like, that guy, like he's like, where's he do these things? Where's it come from? Like literally, and there's just drivers in each one of us, the human race, right, that we're controlled by such deep subconscious programming that we don't even know we're being controlled by it, and until you don't know what you don't know until you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
So you've witnessed it, you've seen it, more will be revealed, right?
Absolutely, more will be revealed.
Yeah, whether we want it or not, you don't have a choice. Like once you walk in here, you don't into this way of living, you really don't have a choice. Once you're in it, you're in it, and so if you're new into it, it's the most beautiful, scary ride of your life, and it's like I wouldn't change it, but sometimes I swear ignorance was bliss,
Mm-hmm.
Ignorance was bliss.
Yeah.
So I think sometimes I joke I would, to go back to that, because I just want to break sometimes. I just break. I'm like, no more growth, no more self-reflection, no more humility. I've had enough.
Well, yeah, because as soon as you ask for it, then it starts happening. And then like sometimes it's like I could ask for like some kind of lesson, and then it'll take like a couple of months for it to show up. But then it's like that lesson could be like weeks and weeks of just bullshit back to back to back until I finally get the lesson. It's just horrible.
Yeah. Well, right. And that's, we talked about it, it's like, why do I have to repeat something until I suffer enough to see it? And then I'm willing to want to change, but I only want to change because I'm suffering so bad it's the last thing left, right? So is it a choice, or is it just a byproduct of my suffering that gets so sick and tired of being sick and tired that I have to change? It has to. Yeah. But I have this messed up thing where I don't change until I have to, until I literally, and that's why I'm doing my steps again currently. And
suffering gives us willingness, which gives us surrender.
The cosmic joke.
And then surrender gives us the thing that makes us change, so that we actually have a different outcome.
Yeah, right. And then I lie to myself and say I have faith to get through it while I'm going through it, which I'm always lying to myself.
Absolutely. Trying to fake it till you make it.
Right, fake it till you make it. Right. And then you see how it always works out way beyond your wildest dreams. And then you don't have the fear of doing it again. But guess what? Once you do it once, you don't need to do it again. Or if you need to do it again, you don't need faith because you did it and now you're not scared. And so like faith is all, I love faith. Like I know that, but is faith even real? Like, or is it what I have to tell myself to get through what I really am fearing, to lie to myself, to make myself feel better? And eventually see that fear was an illusion and it worked out way better than I could have ever imagined.
Or
I don't,
Or is that why our lives are falling apart and we're losing absolutely everything because we refuse to actually have true faith? And so that's why we're going through all this stuff, so that we're forced to actually have faith and do it the right way this time. I mean,
yeah. Or is it, right? Well, what is the right or wrong way? Is there a right or wrong way? And I don't. These are things that I'm.
It depends, I guess, on what philosophy you go to. Because if you look into, say, Buddhism has Indra's Net, which says that there's all these different ways to salvation. but then there's different, Abrahamic religions say there's one. So I mean,
Yeah. What is salvation?
Right? Well, I don't know. I guess we could get deep into philosophy there and try and figure it out, but we'd be here for centuries.
Yeah, but I would care. What is your definition of salvation?
What, mine?
Mhm.
I don't know. I guess I fall along the lines of I think they're all correct. I think they're all I think all of them are right. Because like I fall more into I'm convinced we're just a simulation. This is just a computer software. So I think none of them are wrong. I think
Right.
all of them are right.
Yeah. I don't think they can be wrong. They're all consciousness expressing through many things, and consciousness is everything, and that's all there is, right? And so, like, none of them are wrong. I think whatever belief system one individuated piece of consciousness believes in, that becomes a reality.
Yeah.
But does any of it really matter?
Yeah, and I think they're all just rendered in based on like that single person's viewpoint. So I'm like, it can't be wrong. Even like the destructive ones, I think it's just necessary in order to remove something so that something new can be brought in. So it's like, I think they're all necessary.
Is there anything new, really?
No, because it's like it's still just like how a computer would work. It's like
All the same thing.
it's all the same thing. Like
there is only one thing that appears to be many, and like, so when I first started getting out of my 12-step work, and I remember the big book was the first big book I picked up, and I'm like, holy moly, this is me. But every book I picked up since, I'm like, holy shit, this is me. I'm like, okay, wait a minute. So I wrote all these books to myself to find myself, and I had these breadcrumbs around me the whole time to remind me who I am.
Right?
Always there, but I never saw them until I was ready to see them,
Right.
or music, or hear them, right? And you hear about the eyes to see and the ears to hear, which made no sense to me for a lot of my life. And now I'm like, oh, okay, yeah. So I literally have been looking at myself the whole time and didn't know it because I forgot, or my vibration I was on had the illusion of separation, and the veil was there, and and next thing you know, you look at all these teachings, and then they are all saying the same thing. They're all leading to the same spot.
You're like, oh, I wrote that.
Yeah, right. Like, oh, I wrote that, right? And one of my little fun creations that I created in my mind to confirm my whatever you want to call it was when I had that realization. I remember in the beginning of my sobriety, I remembered creating the program. I'm like, I remember doing this. I remember writing the big book. I remember not only do I remember these are me, I remember doing these things. And so then I created a woman in my reality that I needed some confirmation outside of myself still. But I went to her, and she did these like star charts, which is cool because they're fun to play with, these divination little things we create that tell us what we probably want to know. And I'm like, I told her, I said, it's a trip because I remember creating the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. I remember writing all the books. Like I remember, writing all these Bhagavad Gita, and I remember like literally crazy stuff. And so she does my little thing. She goes, oh, well, you were like the original scribe. Like, and I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. That was me. But yet nowadays, it's like everybody talks about, oh, we're Pleiadian, or we're from these star systems. Well, consciousness is consciousness. Consciousness is everything. Awareness is awareness. Like, it's only one thing here experiencing itself, and that is the universe. That is it's all. So I could isolate myself as a Pleiadian, or I could isolate myself that I'm from the Sirius star system, but now I'm isolated from the one truth, which is kind of what religion and Buddhism or Hindu, they're all. My point is once I identify as any one thing, I cut myself off from the everything.
Yeah.
And so, I won't identify as an alcoholic anymore because that's not my identity, and I'm not religious and I'm not spiritual. But I would say if there's anything I find that I pay attention. Let's just say I pay attention to my reality, and I pay attention to my experiences. And a lot of places call that awareness or consciousness. And it's a pretty trippy way to live life, honestly. I don't know what to do. It's kind of like, once you're here, what do you do?
What do you do? Yeah. Well, especially now, it's just
it's a cosmic joke.
It's a cosmic joke, right? We have so much control, but also zero whatsoever. And I think that's where the joke comes from.
Yeah. And
That's funny to me.
And I know when we put this out on whatever platforms we're going to put out on, and people listen to this, and I would love their comments, because I'm not here to argue by any means with anybody, but I'm here to just share what I experience, and I do believe in a full surrender. Once you start to live in where your consciousness unfolds through you, and maybe the Eastern call it the Tao, the way, whatever, it does feel very predetermined. It's like I really don't have to make choices anymore when I stay silent and present in the moment. And when I watch the awareness in the moment, everything shows up. And it's very humbling, to go, man, how did I create that? Or how did this get created? Because it's like a virus software system that I was given that needs to get the viruses removed. And it only gets removed through the experience of life. And I have to watch this really tainted software program that got put on this planet live itself out here through self-awareness and humility to admit I had a lot of viruses, and I probably still do. I don't know, but it's so humbling to watch them get removed to, Christianity calls it purification. I don't, whatever, to become a more pure operating system, more authentic. I guess let's use the word authentic, the most authentic operating system possible, which I think is love and compassion. But who knows what it really is,
I think that's what makes it so magical, though, is that like everyone can believe in whatever they want,
Mhm.
but then like each part of it makes the whole. And I think that's what's so cool, because I love talking with people and like hearing what they like to believe in, like.
I totally, that's why I say I don't agree or disagree. How can I agree or disagree? Because whatever meaning one's conscious puts on their life is that meaning that's real to them, and I respect that. I could just share what I see and what I feel, and it's fun to talk about. It's I don't need to argue with people about it anymore. It's more fun to philosophize, right? And at the end of the day, I do believe there's books like the Kabbalion, universal law number one, all is mind, the universe is mental. And so a lot of people in sobriety say, oh, I'm not the center of the universe. Well, I disagree. I think personally, realize you are the center of the universe, the center of your creation. It doesn't mean a bad thing. It means when you're the center of your universe, that's where the real work begins, and it's very tough, honestly. It's like, right now I am creating this whole thing because I am the center of my reality. And now I'm humble enough to admit it and look at myself and my role and to not blame others. And it's a tough path, and so, and everyone's got their own operating system in their mind, and I don't think most of the world's quite aware that we live in a hologram, and it's a mirror, and they're stuck in this cage of their mind, and they're working off masks of fear and overcompensation for things they're not willing to look at, and they do really good on the planet, and that's great, and I don't have a problem. I do see the perfection that it's one life living through everybody, but it's still fun to meet people along the way, like ourselves, like that we could talk about some just deep, cool, fun things that I don't know. Yeah, right. And like I said, for me personally, when we chat, I also have this awareness that's listening to what's coming through us, because I actually learn by what we talk about a lot, which is really good, because I think a lot of things come out my mouth that I'm not sure where they're coming from. I'm listening to it. I'm like, wow, that's pretty interesting.
I need to know that. Yeah.
I needed to know that, and then I've also learned through a lot of this, is there anything that's coming through me as a channel, because we're all channels, just a lot of people don't realize it, but we all are. I'm not saying that anything that I'm seeing or I am is any different from anyone else. I'm because there is no anyone else, right? There's only one of us here. But when we talk to each other about going through things, or I'm giving you advice, I need to be listening to that advice, because I'm the one, because you're reflecting back what I need to be doing myself. But I could see it in you crystal clear, but there is no you. There's just I. And so, a lot of times in this world of people trying to tell people what to do and thinking they need to tell others what to do, it's because they don't really want to do it themselves. So I've been very careful about these like shamans on the planet who claim to be shamans, who they're there to help you, because a lot of times they're still trying to fix things outside of themselves. And that's a little scary, you know what I mean? But that's what they create too. That's the level of awareness they're on. So they get that reflection back of things that they need that these others need healing. But I just wonder if they can connect the dots, that the people that they keep coming in their reality are still reflecting back everything they need to look at, And I wonder if they ever see the pattern. Like, why do we get the same problems in our mirror? Like, why isn't all these people dealing with the same thing when it's an inside job?
Yeah, but then you know, that's something that I've thought about before. But then those type of people, that's still a necessary frequency. So somebody needs to hold it. So I
True.
guess
True. You're right, and this is why I love chatting with you, because you're totally correct. You know, it's
yeah.
all necessary, all of it.
Wouldn't our reality like spontaneously combust without them? You know, that's an interesting.
Probably, yeah, you're right. It's all part of the, no, you're right. It's probably all part of the perfect chain, right? The oneness that everything's happening simultaneously, and it's all necessary, right? And no, and that's why I say it's no, I completely hear your point, and it's a true point, I believe, right? And I guess the point is, you know, if anyone ever says they have all the answers or know everything, run, because I sure as heck don't.
Run away! It's a scam.
Yeah, like I can tell you this. It's fun to philosophize and talk about these depths of reality, but I know less today than I've ever known, if you want the truth. Like, I'm like, what the hell's really going on here? Is there even any meaning behind this? Like, what is the true meaning of this experience of life? And I think laughter is just laugh. Like, you got to learn to laugh, no matter what it is. Laugh, you know, and obviously, you know, there's times where laughter isn't always necessary. You know, I mean, if people pass, that's probably a little tough. You don't want to laugh. Oh, they died. But, you know.
I just laughed. That's fucked up. But like, the way you said it was too casual. That's like, that was horrible.
Yeah, but when they pass, you know, we get to a point where we celebrate, I think, celebrating life as opposed to.
Yeah, I celebrate life rather than grieve, I think.
Yeah, that's all my point is. You don't laugh at, but like look at the smile and remember the good times, right? And laugh about all the fun we had.
Yeah.
You know, and wear that lens of gratitude, right? And be grateful for the experience, you know. So, you know, and then also realize, honestly, we never die. What we truly are, what's talking through us doesn't die, right? We never can die. Our body does, but we're internal and infinite awarenesses. And you know, I don't know, I'm honestly excited at this point in my journey to kind of see what happens when the skin suit dries up and withers. You know, it's like, wow, what's next? Like, this is pretty cool. I'm not want it. I'm not suicidal, but yet, although there is times recently, honestly, I've been, fuck, I'm over this planet. I'm done. This has been brutal. It's been really deep and it's been hurtful and I've been tired. In the big picture, I'm more excited for what's next because I know this is such an illusion and such a dream, although it does seem to be real. In my human, it feels real to my human, but my soul's like, nah, you know, this is all just an illusion, and it's a big cosmic college of, you know, expansion. So I don't know what the meaning is of being here, honestly.
I don't know. That's a good question. There's a big question mark over that, and I couldn't tell you.
Yeah. Well, when you figure it out, let me know.
I don't know. It gives me a headache. That's what it is. It's to give me a headache.
Right. It does. When I try to figure it out, I get a really bad headache. And when I just sit there and when I intellectually try to figure it out, it gives me a really bad headache. When I just watch it, you know, and I let it unfold and I just pay attention, and sometimes I still get the headache, but you know, but the longer I'm here, the less it makes sense.
I think that's the one thing we can agree upon. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you know, although we are saying our lives are falling apart right now and everything's going wrong, it'll be fun to keep doing the podcast, you know, like whatever, every week we do this, to just sort of share our experience with the viewers that watch this, because I'm sure at the end of it, there's going to be some pretty neat things that are unfolding right now. And if it didn't get really shitty lately, and make us, you know, laugh and surrender again, we wouldn't be able to step into that next season or vibration or whatever you want to call it. So it'll be fun. I'm actually excited to keep doing this with you because I don't know what's about to happen. You know what I mean? I really don't. And I never do, because every time I think I have a plan or I know what's happening, it usually does the opposite.
Yeah, like this is genuinely the first time in my life I have zero plan, because everything that I thought that I could do, like, there's nothing I could do about it. Absolutely none. Like, nothing.
Yeah. This is like our our video, right? Our live podcast stream version of Michael Singer's The Surrender Experiment. At this point, it's just like, hands up, I surrender.
Right.
You know, I'm just letting go completely and realizing that there is a perfection, you know, in this divine tapestry that I'm just having a little harder time seeing right now than I want to, but I do know it's there, and you know, enjoying the ride. So
Enjoying, I don't know if that's the word I would use right now, but
yeah.
Am I on the ride? I'm certainly on the ride. I could use that.
Well, it's kind of like the funny meme you sent me a few days ago, right? It was can we just get a little more lube? This is getting a little brutal. Yeah, life hasn't had the life lube lately, you know, even with meditation. You know, even with my other my exercising, I've been exercising a lot. I've been doing a lot of meetings. I've been talking to a lot of my soul family. That's usually my spiritual lube. And even that's been, you know, it hasn't been stopping the friction so much.
A little like sandpaper mode.
Yeah, little sandpaper mode, you know.
Sandpaper.
And you know, and to come back to the full circle is, I think the laughter is the only thing that makes the sandpaper bearable sometimes, you know, and that's okay. You know, like
that extra grit and chapped ass, no good feeling. Like it's
right,
not nice.
Right, jump back up on the saddle. Just keep riding. You know, you can't get bucked off. I don't think there's a right or wrong way to do this. I think we just do it. You know, and there's no failure. There is, you know, there's just experience, and you know. But these are also things I tell myself to feel better to get through them, right? So it's all part of the fun, though. At the end of the day, it's all good fun. You know, life's going to be taken so serious.
But then, okay, saying those types of mantras, though, because that's something I've been thinking about. Even that, is that just like, is that also a form of non-acceptance, though? Like saying like things are going to get better. I feel like that's a form of non-acceptance, or like in feelings of like non-surrender, because that makes me feel like I'm just like trying to like say that things are just not okay the way that they are. Like I'm losing everything, and if I'm saying like, oh, it'll get better, that means like I'm just like not okay with this just being as it is. You know what I mean? Or am I allowed to hope for more? What's the difference between wanting to change your circumstance and like being in a state of just acceptance, I guess? Do you know what I'm getting at?
Yeah. Well, I think there's a few layers of that, right? I think if I was watching you and we talk regularly and you are trying to do things, right?
Like everything. For anybody like I've tried like literally everything humanly possible to try and get like any sort of any movement going on in my life, and like the universe has been like, nah bitch, like you're not doing anything except for sitting at home staring at the ceiling. So yeah.
And so, you know, and I have had times in my spiritual journey where I was thinking, oh, it all just comes in, it all just happens, I don't got to do shit, you know, and I was totally wrong, right? You do have to give action, you do have to move, you do have to participate. And I'm watching you as a friend, you know, as someone I care about, right? Like I'm watching you, and you are doing things. You're not sitting back being non-active, like, oh, it's just gonna fill up. Like you're trying everything, and none of it's working, you know, and that's okay, you know, that's all I'm saying, right? So I think there's times where we do need to laugh, and we gotta be like, I know I'm doing the best I can, you know, and everything I'm trying though is just not, you know, that those aren't the right doors, right? And the, you know, like anything, you know, someone in my life that used to say, you know, if you throw enough spaghetti against the wall, eventually it'll stick, right?
Okay.
And I think sometimes I've been through a few phases, right? We just keep doing things, and we keep doing things, and there's mechanisms in the true reality, right? In the energetic spiritual universe that are lining things up for us, that we are just not in control of, and so we have these ideas or these plans, and we keep trying to do them, and we keep trying to do them, and I've definitely seen so far on my journey that every time this happens, you know, I end up a door opening that I would have never tried to open, or something that comes that I wasn't wise enough to ask for because I didn't even know it existed, like sobriety. Like I would have never got sober. Like I don't know what the hell happened. It just got removed from me. I'm being honest. Like I think if you're sober, you're chosen. Like I would never have chose to get sober, right? Like I would, and I probably couldn't stop drinking, or
I came into the room by accident. Yeah, like I didn't even choose to come into the rooms. I came into them by accident. I came because of somebody else, and then got stuck in them.
Right, and I came because I had to. It was the last thing left. Like I had hit my such rock bottom, my gift of desperation, sick and tired of being sick and tired. There was no other place for me to go, right, energetically. And that's where I ended up. And then when it was removed, I realized, holy crap, I got worse. The drugs and alcohol weren't my problem. They were my solution to a deeper spiritual malady, we call it, right? Which for me was I'm finally seeing was fear. Just, and I drank and used because it gave me liquid courage to live on this planet, and so when it was removed, like I said, it was just removed. And now I'm like, holy moly, I got worse. Like my mind is worse. Like I'm way more chaotic. And, meditation became my new medication, right? Getting physical again, the appearance of working with others, right? Stepping into a space that is healing for whatever reason. There's a healing energy in there, and the healing energy is really within you, within ourselves. Mm-hmm. But for a time, we have to search for it outside of ourselves until we realize, no, that it's actually within us, but I had to step into that room to find the truth within me, and who knows? But I don't take credit. Like I said, I think it was removed. My operating system was done. That virus was time to be deleted. A lot of people use the word God. I don't know what it is. I really don't care. But that I was no longer able to run on that operating system, and it was time to get the new upgrade. And the upgrades take a long time. So I don't take credit for any of it. I don't say I was smart enough to come here. And that all my point is the more, and that's all surrender, right? Like, wow, there's this greater plan for me. And, all I know is I could just do the best I can daily to keep doing things. And of course, I'm the type of person that always thinks I could do more, right? I could do more. I could do this better. I should be working on this. I could be doing that. And the ego wants to think it has a plan, and then the soul knows there's this divine alignment that happens very organically and naturally, right? And it's such a conundrum. That's the cosmic joke, right? It's like, oh, I mean, I'm supposed to work so hard, and yeah, we are supposed to be of action, but it's all balance. Like I've noticed, for me, all my blessings are my curses, and my curses are blessings. They're literally the same thing. It's just where are they being used, and for some reason, communicating with other human beings for some reason seems to dissipate that that stuff, and we feel better, right? And laughter really is key. I feel.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So
makes sense.
I don't know. I'm not saying like I said, I'm not saying I have all this. Are just things I've observed. I don't know if I'm right. I couldn't tell you. I just know that I've created a set of things that I hope works for me, and sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, simple enough. It's like, yeah, it's either going to work or no, I guess. No.
Yeah, well, I think all these things are really to make us feel better, right? But then again, if I lie to myself and just try to feel better and I don't ever feel the pain and the suffering, do I ever heal it, right? And then and it's going to make me suffer and feel pain until I'm willing to look at it and then be humble enough to admit where it's coming from. Mm-hmm. Carl Jung, right? We got to make the unconscious conscious, and it's never fun to make the unconscious conscious, especially deeper in this path where we go deeper and deeper down into the truth, and it's like, man, there's more. Like, really? Like, I thought I was perfect, right? No. And you're like, no, we're far from it.
Yeah, it's like, newsflash, here's some more.
Yeah, like you say, more will be revealed, right? And I'm just like, geez,
time to earn your day. You've been feeling too good lately.
Yeah, I think if it all happened at once, I don't think our psyche could take, a full-on complete psychic change all at once. I think we'd probably frazzle and blow up like a supernova and be gone.
Yeah, I'd be in the Groupie Socks hotel like instantly. Yeah, I wouldn't last very long. I'm too fragile for that.
Yeah, right. I think all humans are. I really think our psyches, we're given what we can take at the time, and and I couldn't take anything for my whole life, which was why I was an alcoholic and addict, right? I wasn't able to expand. I wasn't teachable, and so at a certain point, I'm like, ooh, this doesn't work for me. I need to become pliable and be able to be, shaped for God's glory or whatever, made malleable, right? And then when you become malleable, it's brutal.
Yeah. So do you think willingness is just being willing to be teachable by the universe? Do you think that's all that is?
Willingness, my personal experience of willingness is we talked about this earlier, right? I'm not willing to do something until I'm so sick and tired of my old construct that I have to change. And it's not really a choice anymore. It's a byproduct of this consciousness no longer works for me. And now I really need to change because this is killing my human, right? Like my soul is dying. Like I'm literally not enjoying it. I have to do something else. It's not even an option. Like, well, maybe I should. It's like, no, so willingness is, I don't know, to me is like I said, it's not a choice. It's something that's a byproduct of showing me the end of an old way of being, or an old version of self that's being removed. And I'm only willing because I don't have a choice, because now the next one's coming in now because I'm open to it. But it's just I could keep suffering, but you really can't. Eventually, you can't keep suffering. You can't. Eventually, it's just so bad you have to do something. And usually the acceptance and the surrender, right, is what allows the new one to come in. Like, oh, here we go again, another upgrade or another big download or whatever you want to call it. And when I surrender and accept it, it doesn't. It feels like there's a little surrender and acceptance or spiritual lube.
It's a good way to put it. I like that.
Right? Surrender, acceptance, and faith. They're all the same thing to me, honestly, right? Surrender, acceptance, and faith. Truthfully, what I hear is all the same thing. It's spiritual lube.
I need that on a t-shirt. That's the whole goal. We need to have this podcast become famous just so I can have that on a t-shirt.
Right? Like surrender, acceptance, and faith. Spiritual lubrication.
On the back, it needs to be like spiritual lube.
Right? So I don't know. These are just notes I'm taking on this life I've been given, and I don't know. Maybe it helps some people, maybe it doesn't, and maybe we're just doing this for our own entertainment, and who knows? At the end of the day, it's a fun social experiment.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe it's just to make ourselves feel better while we're going through a horrible time. Who knows? Maybe lots of people need it. Maybe it's one person. It doesn't matter. If we have a viewer, hello, nice to meet you.
Honestly,
Love you.
It is what it is. Yeah, I do hope many people relate and laugh and feel a little bit more at home. That you're not alone on this path, and then we've been blessed to be placed in rooms where we find other version. But eventually you're gonna find each other on the path. We all do. Like the soul family all comes together at a certain point. Like soul family definitely gets put together somehow. Magnetically, right? In reality, like it just happens, and then it becomes self-organizing, and it self-aligns, and it all comes together exactly when it's supposed to, and it's fun to watch. But when that one self-organizing system evolves to the next self-organizing system, that chaos that becomes in order to reorganize is where the human has a hard time. I think the human loves comfort. They love the comfort, and they love the center, where everything's just easy and good, and it's not changing, right? But our soul doesn't like it. It's like, I always joke, like we said, the worst things that ever happened to me are the best things that ever happened to me. Well, the worst things that ever happened to my human are the best things that ever happened to my spiritual, my soul, my growth. And eventually, when you realize on this path, when everything's falling apart, it's actually really falling together. But living it is still an art, and that's why, when we've been chatting lately, I've been cracking up. I'm like, and we've been laughing a lot. I mean, it's been funny shit. I mean, right? It's been funny. And so I'm like, we really need to start recording this, because like, if we can laugh at this shit, like, this is good. Like, because there's no way I used to have been able to laugh at what we're going through and how we're going. Right? Like, laughter wasn't even an option.
No, because it's just so ridiculous. You know what I mean? Because it's like, we know what's happening. So I would say that's definitely progress.
Yeah, absolutely. Progress, not perfection, right?
Absolutely.
Well, I think it's a good little start for everybody to see what this is probably kind of going to be about on our adventure, this unfoldment that we're living right now. So as of today, the cosmic joke is, I think, done. But thank you guys all for thank you, Victoria, for helping create this and participating. And I look forward to our next episode.
We did it. Bye.
I love you all the family and fellow travelers out there that are going to participate in this. Welcome to this journey that we're all going to share together. And honestly, I personally would love to hear feedback from everybody because, like I said, I'm open to hear because I don't know anything. I don't know if I know any. I know nothing, I think, at this point. So, comments are, not only suggested, they're required. If you're going to listen to this, you have to feedback.
It's the taxes. You got to pay them.
Yeah, your taxes is following whatever platform we put this on and subscribing and liking and then participating, because this is a participatory experience that we're all sharing together and simultaneously. So anyway, Victoria, thank you for your time. And until next one.
Okay, we'll see you then. Okay, bye, friends.